I have one more thing to Armon wants to come up and say something.
No, it's not a book, really. No. Well, we'll go way back to the beginning, 1942. There was some things mentioned in the little brochure that you had there, Terry. And in 1942, to take you back to the beginning of when they got married, there were a lot of service-type marriages. In 1942, Jimmy Doolittle and Jimmy Doolittle's Raiders bombed Tokyo early in the year, just to prove that it could be done. It was war years. Cars and trucks weren't being manufactured, cars specifically, trucks, Jeeps and that type of thing were. There were the paper drives, the Victory Gardens. Some of these things to the service personnel, if it's mentioned, they kind of wrinkle up their forehead and don't know about it, because things such as the right to buy food, which were the coupons of things that were rationed, and things such as if you went in with this coupon, which was the right to buy it, not the money to buy it with, you would have, they were kind of like money, and there were tokens for the change. They were red and green and blue, little, they were made of soybeans. There were very many things in the 40s. For instance, where Fort City is now, that was a war plant. Well, the Victory Gardens were to grow vegetables and food for the people here to eat, so that the various things such as dairy products could be shipped overseas. It was a very dramatic time in our history. We moved along, various things that happened as the war ended a few years later, and then along came what are now lovingly referred to as the baby boomers. The original baby boomers were the children born the post-years of the Second World War. And there's 3 of them present here today. Now, I wrote a few little things down. The mode of transportation during the 40s were still the Model T and the Model A. Mostly the Model A, because some cars had been manufactured after the Model A, but not many. The program right now that's on TV, Our World, refers back to a lot of those years. And as we get into the 50s, I personally came to Chicago in 1958 to see a ball game. Now, up to this point, to those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Armon. I live in Clearing. We have a business in Clearing. And I moved here in 50. Yeah, give me your cards, I'll pass them out for you, Ed. Anyway, I came to Chicago to see a baseball game in 1958. I came to watch my Braves beat the Cubs. I stayed, I got into business. A few years later, it was right in Clearing, a few years later, moved our business onto Central Avenue from 64th Street. And our little shop was right where Lucky's Hot Dogs place is right now, across from the post office. And I had the occasion in the next few years to meet various kids in the neighborhood. We lived in the rear of the building, and our children were small. And it seemed like there was constantly 15, 20 dozen, what have you, children over there playing in those vacant lots. Our home was the closest, so when they needed a Band-Aid, a glass of water, an argument settled or something, they ended up at our apartment in the rear of our shop. And as our business was growing, I had some typing being done by Carol Morowski. Carol lived a couple doors over from the alley from where our shop and our home were. One day, I went to take some of this typing over there. And as I came through the gangway, there was a little girl standing by the side door knocking on the door. And she was probably 10, 11, 12, something like that, standing there in a little frilly white dress, and she started backing up. Well, I knocked on the door, and I go in, and the little girl came in, and her friend Sue, and she was over there to play with her friend Sue. Now, I didn't see her for some time, maybe a month or so later. Playing out there, a number of the neighbor kids would come along, and I would see this cute little girl and got to know her, just as someone in the neighborhood. And she was real easy to remember, because she's always had a dimple in her nose. The only girl I ever knew with a dimple in her nose. Now, we've always kidded her about that, and over the years now, this was approximately 25 years ago. So we go back a long way with the Daukus family. We didn't personally get to know Rich. Rich was a little older. He went away to college. I knew who he was, and that's all. But I got to know Terry. She babysat for some of our children and worked in our shop. We've got a lot of memories. Goes back quite a while. As our children were growing up, I think she babysat with all of them at times. And as one of our daughters was born, Terry was so proud of her. And our little daughter had dark hair, and Terry would take her out in the buggy or what have you, and walk down the street. And people would come along and say, "Oh, what a pretty baby. She looks just like you. And you seem so young." And she used to pass her off as her daughter. And that's our daughter, Maria.
Now they look at her and say they can tell us she's gotten quite big.
Now, during these years of growing up and having fun, working at our shop, also Lenny worked at our shop. And we've got a lot of memories of that. As a matter of fact, Lenny brought up a few earlier today. He mentioned one about a copy machine, and luckily I didn't bring that. And I still have it, Len. He mentions that he had a few pieces of memorabilia at home from those days. But anyway, Len and a number of the neighborhood boys, it seemed like a lot of the young people, I would hire them during the summer months or to sweep or what have you, learn how to pack, teach various things. And there were all the challenges of going along with this, both ways, I'm sure. And now when I say that I've known the Daukuses for 25 years, I'd like to ask Becky to come up here. Where's Becky?
Becky? Hey, Becky!
There is the washroom, the girls.
Oh, well, we'll wait then. We've gotten to know the Daukus family quite well. Now, today, naturally, I started out talking about the years when Tony and Vern got married, and I really haven't mentioned them much, because really, the greatest tribute to a parents is to discuss their children. And having been associated and friends with and what have you over the years with Terry and Lenny specifically, it's something that's really dear to us. Now, we have 6 children. Now, I mentioned earlier that I came to this city to see a baseball game, and that's the gospel truth how I came here. That was in 1958. I stayed and got into business, got married, and I always mention this little fact that we have 3 boys and 3 girls, and people always ask, how did the ball game turn out? I just tell them, well, the score's tied, 3 boys and 3 girls, and we're in extra innings. Now, Becky, could you come up here? Sometimes when people say they know someone for a length of time, people don't really believe it. Now, Becky, I've known your daddy a real long time, and I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to show this to you first, and you can go over and show it to your daddy next, okay? You see this? Now, don't let anyone else see it. Take a look at that picture. See that picture? Do you see anyone in there you know? Take it over and show it to your dad. Take the picture.
Can we see it, Becky?
Huh? Well, like I said, sometimes people say, oh, I've known someone for so long, I've known this, I've known that. The other day, quite accidentally, I was going through some things, and I saw this picture, and I just thought, I have to take this picture along. And you know what? I got here tonight, and I walked in. I was here a little earlier, and I came back. I walked in, and I saw Rich, and I turned and saw Lenny, and I said, oh, gee, I forgot. And I took off out of here because I left this picture at my shop. And I know, now there's proof. Now, we moved out of that shop 20 years ago, Lynn, so that was still on Central Avenue. Yes. So now we've talked here about a lot of things and a little bit of funny things, some nostalgia, but the main thing that I wanted to say at the end was that we know your family and we know your kids. We've enjoyed them. Our 6 kids, the M Squad: Mark, Mary, or Babe, as we know her, Mike, Marty, Maria, and Merrill. No, Terry. If you say Terry in our house, there's only one person. And that's Terry, right here. Tony, Vern, the best always. Thank you.